earlier, it's like, wow, the weather just dropped crazy last night.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll wait just another minute or two, just in case these last few are gonna come in, but then we'll get started here in just, let's say 2 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Or not scream, but yell, mama, 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 and then they're playing for an hour and a half.
Brandon, Aaron, do you have any bottles open right now? Are you sipping on anything?
No, they're in the fridge. I didn't. My guest just arrived, and I didn't know what we were going to start with, so I haven't opened anything yet.
Yeah. Cool. We'll get on it. Lots of great options today.
Yeah. Well, what are we starting with? I'll go grab something real quick while we're waiting.
I would start with the Supersetto if you have that on you.
Okay, we don't have a Supersetto in our package, so.
Okay, that's okay. Then the H3 is a really good one to start with too.
H3. Okay, give me 1 minute.
Yeah. Oh, I love that puppy in the background. I see. Is that a border collie?
It's an Australian Shepherd.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, that's Hogan. He really wants in on the wine and the cheese.
Yes, love Hogan.
We'll turn this one down. Okay, well, I think we should probably get started.
Oh, great.
Yeah, well, just wanted to thank everybody for joining us. From the looks of the group, I think the majority of you know about Vino Coterie. This event was created and thought up between John Paul Tabor and Guy Young Kim. They realized the time of year, and she brought some really good options to us. So we wanted to present some really nice rosés to everybody. For those of you that aren't familiar, I'm Aaron Stavenall, one of the partners with Vino Coterie. Vino Coterie is kind of three-pronged. We have monthly memberships where we have 4 different membership levels, depending on what your taste is and what your budget is, where we send out 3, 6, or 12 bottles a month. We also do a lot of events, online events, just like this one that you're joining today. We do a lot of in-person events. We can help you host, your next party, different things like that. And then finally, we have an e-shop where you can go on. We have over 150 different products online that you can go in and search for and purchase for roughly 15% off most retail prices. So Guy Young is one of our retail partners, our distributor partners. She has a wonderful portfolio. And like I said, she helped us put together this event tonight. So I'm going to toss it over to her and let her walk us through these amazing rosés she brought us.
Awesome, thank you. So my name is Lei Kim. I work for St. Michel Wine Estates, and I specialize in our luxury wines and also the wines from the Antinori portfolio. I'm just going to share my screen. Oh, wait, can you let me share the screen? I don't know if John Paul's the host or if Aaron's the host.
It's Brandon, I think
Okay.
he's.
I just made you the host.
Thank
You can share.
Awesome, thank you. Cool. Let's see. Can you guys see it? Awesome, great, yes. So yeah, we're hoping for really great weather, but great weather or not, it's always a great day for rosé, right? I feel like rosé now, it's not just a seasonal thing. I mean, yes, going into the spring and summer months, that's for sure in season, but even throughout the winter, a lot more and more people are drinking rosé. So with the rosé packages, we have 2 for you today. The first package here on the left, we have 3 wines. Sepriceto Rosé is coming from Tuscany. And then we also have the H3 and then the Lei Rosay, both coming from Washington. Package number 2, we're gonna have champagne as our specialty bottle. And then we'll again keep the H3 and the Lei Rosay. So I'm not sure which packages you have, but I'm gonna go over all of the wines. And then you should have received tasting sheets, and then you can write your own little tasting notes with the wines too. And feel free to unmute yourself whenever you have any questions or comments. Like, I want this to be, interactive and fun. So don't feel like you're interrupting or anything at all. So before we get started with rosé tasting, and well, you please feel free to sip as I'm chatting. Definitely go ahead and get started. But I just want to kind of go over how rosé is made in the first place. So there's technically 4 different methods of making rosé. So this big section on the right-hand side, you're gonna see there's 2 different methods that's very closely linked together. One's called direct press, and that's where you're gonna have the lightest, most delicate rosé. Grapes are gonna be harvested, everything's gonna be pressed from its skins immediately, and then it'll go straight into fermentation. Now, red skin grapes, that's for red grapes in the skin, that's where you're gonna get all of the color. So as soon as you start pressing, some color will be extracted from the skin, but again, it's gonna be pretty delicate, and it goes straight into the fermentation tank. Now, another method that's pretty similar is called short maceration, where there's a maceration period where the juice is in contact with the skins, probably about 2 to 6 hours. I don't usually see it more than 6 hours. Again, creating a more delicate style, yes, but then you have more extracted, just slightly more color, slightly more aromatics, slightly more texture and body as well. The third method of making rosé is going to be in this bottom section here, and it's called the Seignier Method, or the bleeding method. Now, this method isn't as common, and it's not as, not that it's frowned upon, but it's really it was started create a rosé, not to create a rosé, but to make a stronger, more powerful red wine. So what they do is, when you're making red wine, you start by your grapes and all the must and the juice is all together in the tank, and they'll take away some juice. Could be the juice that's settled in the very beginning. It could be a very soft press, but they'll take away that juice first, and then they'll make rosé out of that. And then they'll continue on making the red wine. So again, it was really more to better the red wine production as opposed to making a serious style rosé. This method here, though, does make a meatier rosé. It makes a darker rosé, fleshier rosé as well. So there is more of an increase in that style. Again, it's a historical style. So I am seeing a few more producers coming, going back to the old school method, but really most producers do either the short maceration method or direct press. Now, all of our wines tonight, the still wines, are going to be direct press. And then, of course, in champagne, you have a method where you can actually blend white wine and red wine together to make rosé. And what they do is, with the base wines, they'll do a small percentage of white wine into their red wine base, and then it'll create a rosé champagne. And that's exactly how we have our rosé champagne later tonight. Any questions on the methods of rosé? Then I will move forward. Oh, here we go. All right, so for those who have the first package, we have Santa Cristina. Oh, and then Brandon or Aaron, if you can help me look into the chat too, if anyone has any questions. But yeah, so the first wine of the first package, we have Santa Cristina Seprasetto Rosé, and it's 2018, and it's primarily of Sangiovese. Now, this is a rosé that's pretty historical in itself. It was one of the first rosés to be made in Italy in the mid 1940s, and it comes from this ancient town called Cortona, right here. So we're in eastern Tuscany here. Not too far away from Siena, but more closer to the Umbria border. But Santa Cristina was originally made for their Chiantis and Chianti Classicos, but then when they created this rosé, it's really become like a lifestyle wine. It's just so light, very fresh. It's 2018, and yes, people are thinking, you know, that's a little bit older because we're slowly seeing 2020s being released and definitely 2019s. So, you know, people might ask, why are we drinking 2018? Well, Sangiovese itself has really bright acidity, and that helps the wine age well. And it's intended for a little bit more of that savory tone with age. So in the next month or so, I'll be getting the 2019. So the winery holds it back just a little bit longer. But I love the tasting sheet that John Paul created, and I love that you can rate it yourself. You can taste some of the nuances of that red, bright berry fruit, the red cherry, raspberry, cranberry, that's all coming from the Sangiovese grape. And then you have that old world savory tone about this wine that I love too. Any questions or comments on those who have Seprasetto with them?
I think it's good.
Yeah. What are you tasting?
I can think you said cherry.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I can kind of taste that in it.
Yeah, it's like light cherry, kind of like very soft, underripe strawberry kind of tones. All that red fruit comes from Sangiovese. Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, Young, the smell on this one is unique versus the first two that we've kind of tasted while we were waiting out here. Can you talk about maybe why that is?
Yeah, so that's coming from all of the savory tones, all of the spices, all of like, think all Italian herbs, right? Like oregano, thyme. I mean, it's not a lot, but there's all of these earthy minerality tones within the Seprasetto that makes it so different. This is a rosé that I love with food. If you have like a charcuterie board, this is with cheeses, it's great. This with like an Italian sub, I'm there. So this is a good food wine, food rosé. And again, it has a little bit more texture, I think. It has more of like a flinty minerality and a little bit more texture.
Speaking of the texture, we were wondering what makes it a little bit fizzier than your typical rosé.
For the Seprasetto, so the fizz will probably go away. It's really, for the most part in rosés too, when they bottle it, when you open it after they bottle, they want that freshness, right? So they'll add a little bit of sometimes sulfur to make sure that no oxygen gets into the bottle. This is really intended to keep the wine fresh. So the fizziness should be going away soon.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so what score would you give it for those who have rosé or with the Seprasetto? And I guess this would be a little bit harder because again, it's different. It's not your typical super juicy, super fruit forward kind of rosé. So to give it a fair shot, if you do have food with you, I'd take a little bite of charcuterie or a little bite of cheese, like a firmer cheese, and then give it a go. But it is a little bit different. It's not your typical, you know, super fruit forward kind of rosé. So what do you think? Any votes out there? Let me see, any raised glasses for a score of 1? I hope not. This is so good, right? 2, 3. Would you rank it at 4 or 5? Awesome. Awesome, great. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Next one. So the next two, we're going to go into Washington State. And we'll start with the H3. And I don't have the bottle with me. I just drank it yesterday, though. And this is more of that typical style. Lots of fruit going on, lots of ripeness going on. And we're getting that ripeness because it's coming from the New World. And it's coming from a area called Horseheaven Hills, right down here. And it's definitely a drier, warmer area. So this is kind of a hodgepodge of all these varietals that's harvested separately and by multiple small family growers. And so we have Cabernet Sauvignon, we have Syrah, Mourvèdre, Grenache, and Cinsault. It also has a little bit of a grape called Counoise as well. Most of these are Rhone varietals, aside from the Cabernet Sauvignon. But if you guys want to give it a taste, and let me know what you're thinking. What are you tasting? What are you feeling? What are you smelling?
I like this one a lot. This is really kind of fruity, but light, refreshing, crisp. For a Washington Rosé, it's like the last thing I would think, and the label is pretty dope too.
Yeah, this is a new launch of the label, and you're right. It's very crisp. It's very refreshing, but it has really nice fruit and body too. Absolutely. This is like one that's like a porch pounder, right? The first one's a Prosecco I love with food. This one I could drink on its own. So
Yeah, we really like it here at this household. We like how it does have body, but it's not overly sweet, but it's really refreshing.
And you know, I like how you say it's not overly sweet. Yes, it's ripe, but it's not like sweet, like sugar sweet. And I feel like, especially in America, you know, with the whole white Zinfandel craze, when people look at rosé, they immediately think, oh, it's going to be sweet, especially the darker the color. But I love that there's, you know, the rise of dry rosé, but you still have that nice ripeness to enjoy. Cool. So on a scale, on our little scorecard, let's just not even talk about 1, 2, or 3, right? Because this wine is so good. So raise of glasses if this is your wine number, you know, score of number 4 on the screen. Let me see. 4. Nice. And then 5. I mean, I would give this a 5. It's so good. It's so easy to drink. Absolutely. Food pairings. I mean, again, I could just drink this on its own, but anything from like this to like your first course, second course kind of dishes. But this with pasta, I bet would be amazing. I love this with risotto as well. And then you can do something as like light as like, you know, fresh salad with spring peas and, you know, carrots and more like the springtime vegetables. But yeah, but because it has that base of Cabernet Sauvignon, and that's where you're getting your backbone and your structure from, it can really hold up to a little bit heavier. Any questions on Horseheaven Hills?
What else?
Any comments on this one?
I personally haven't really drank much else from Horseheaven Hills. What else do they have that would be worth trying?
Yeah, so there's the cabs here are really good. The Merlots and the Syrahs here are really good too. So this whole area is pretty dry, like I was saying. We have the Columbia River down here that kind of helps mitigate the area, but we have the Cascade Mountains here that really blocks all of like the rainfall and the cold weather coming from the western shore. It's not insanely high in elevation. Like the next one is the Lei Rosay, and it's coming from Yakima. That's a lot higher in elevation, so it's a little cooler in climate. So the Horse Heaven Hills is pretty warm, but it's very friendly to a lot of varietals, a lot of red grape varietals. It's really windy here too. So with the wind, with the heat, with the dryness, these red varietals can ripen, and then each berry can really be fully concentrated. But because in the nighttime it gets pretty cool, that's where your acidity comes into play. That's where your balance comes into play. But yeah, they make a great cab if you're looking for, 100% cab, Merlot and Syrah. They also have a vineyard here that's like a small parcel of Chardonnay, and that does really well here too. So cool. Let's move on. Next we have Lei Rosay. So this is a limited production and limited release. It was made for the Kentucky Derby, and we were one of the sponsors for the Derby. And this is more in that Provence style. And even as you can see in the bottle shape, it's that longer Provence-like bottle. But this is coming from Yakima Valley. So as we saw in the map previously, a little bit higher in elevation. This is more on the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. This is about like 13 to 1500 feet in elevation. So it's a lot cooler area here in general. But this is a rosé made from majority Cabernet Sauvignon and then a good amount of Syrah as well. It's like 79% Cab and the rest is Syrah. And it speaks more of that old world style in terms of savory tones and that minerality, but you still have that nice ripeness in fruit. But definitely taste and think about what you see, what you smell. And then think about the body of this wine as well. To me, something that
We haven't
stands
tasted
out on
it
the
over here
nose.
yet, but we got like dark fig and plum on the nose.
Yes, absolutely. It's more darker fruit, right? So we started with Soprassetto being like, Bing cherry, sour cherry, underripe strawberry from the old world. And then we go to H3 where it's a little bit riper, combination of red and black fruit. But here it's more like black and purple fruit. You get like that black currant, red currant, plum, figs, like you were saying. Absolutely. I get a pepperiness here. It's like fresh cracked black pepper, a little bit of red pepper too, but it's not strong. It's just like a subtle, nuance. Gives it a little bit more complexity.
Yeah, it's almost got like a fizziness to it, but maybe it's the peppery that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think also you might be feeling the acidity. That acidity has like that prickly feeling. And I'm looking at this photo and it's like the charcuterie over the melon. And oh my gosh, this would be perfect with that. I think it would really complement prosciutto, the lighter style meats, charcuterie meats. Or this with like figs wrapped with prosciutto. That would be awesome. So let's look at the scorecard here. So again, like let's not even look at 1, 2, or 3 because this is just so delicious. Raise of glasses for if you rate it for number 4. And then raise of glasses for number 5. Yes.
Would you say this is like a red wine drinkers rosé? Because we're all red wine drinkers in this room, and it's a big hit actually.
That's awesome. Yes, I love that you say that, because absolutely, it has more body to me than the H3. It has a longer finish as well, and just texturally, like the flavors really coat the palate. So this is definitely a red wine lover's rosé. Absolutely. And it has a savoriness too. It's not just fruit. It's not just, it's not one dimensional. You have a little bit of minerality, but you have that savory tone too.
So we felt like the last one, like the Heaven Hills, was a bit more like crisp and like felt like on a warmer day, like a porch pounder. And this is
Yeah.
like a little bit cooler, and it kind of goes with like a little bit cooler climate than something like when it's hotter and crisp. So
It's hardier. Sorry.
It's hardier, yeah, absolutely. And yes, like the H3, definitely something like, again, so good without food, right? You can just drink it on its own. Whereas this, like, not that it needs food, like maybe the Separsetto could help, use food. This can definitely stand up to food. And I would even do this with like a spring menu if you're doing lamb or rabbit or pastas like gnocchi. Absolutely, it has that body to hold up to heartier foods. See how it has like a bigger structure too, like a leaner structure. It's not just, it's more complexity. There's more going on to it, and it has like a more focused, polished structure as well. So good. Any other questions? Then we'll move on. This is what I'm drinking right now. Well, I had a sip of the Lei Rosay too, but oh, you can barely see, but yeah, the Sakura bottle. So this is coming from Nicholas Foyat, Champagne House in a village called Chuli, which is a Grand Cru village, famous for Chardonnay. But this is going to be in the rosé method of production spectrum that I said earlier on. This is the blending method. So majority Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, two red varietals. Pinot Noir is for the structure. Pinot Noir is for all of that red fruit flavor and elegance as well, and aromatics. Pinot Meunier gives more of that juicy berry fruit. Pinot Meunier also gives a fleshier texture, and then Chardonnay gives it a brighter acidity. And really, Chardonnay is like its backbone. It's like the acidity and the backbone of the wine. But Nicholas Foyat started as it's considered a co-op, but it's a different kind of co-op. It's more of a growers co-op, where a third of all champagne growers decide to work with Nicholas Foyat year after year, because with our facility, they get to make their own wines, their own labels. They can use all of our, facility to do that. Of course, most of those wines is such a small production, it stays in Champagne anyway. But then with that being said, we ask for some grapes to come in together collectively to make champagne collectively under one label, the Nicholas Foyat label. So this is a Sakura label rosé. So this is also more limited production and limited release. And this is released for a celebration of springtime, cherry blossoms. That's what Sakura means. And it's just an easy drinking, bright, fresh rosé champagne, non-vintage. And in a champagne house, your rosé is always going to be the most expensive one. So to have a non-vintage rosé champagne that's very approachable price point wise, I mean, this is just crushable. So flavors, what are you smelling? What are you tasting? To me, I do get that red berry fruit, and it's a spectrum from ripe cherry to black cherry, all the way to raspberries and blueberries as well. But then there's that flinty minerality coming from Champagne, of course, and the limestone soil. What do you guys think? For those who haven't.
Mommy, can I open this?
So sweet.
We're trying to finish the Lei Rosay and get these glasses full. So we're gonna have some feedback for you in a
Oh,
minute.
cool. Yeah. And while you're tasting, a little bit about Nicolas Feuillet too, it is the youngest of all of the big champagne houses. It's the youngest. It started in 1970s. But it's vastly grown in France. It's the #1 consumed champagne in France. So really very popular there. Working on bringing more and more Nicolas Feuillet here, of course, right? Because we got to drink what they're drinking. But I'm loving this. It's beautiful fruit, but it's just so fresh and just very lively. And then food-wise, you can have a whole spectrum of food. Literally, if there's any time like you have a question about food pairing, just go to champagne. Champagne will pair well with many things. So you could go, like, if you had like a spicy Indian dish, this would be delicious with that. If you were doing like a light brunch, this would be great. If you're doing fried chicken, this would be great. Lots of the whole spectrum of foods here. Anyone else who has the champagne on them? I see Eric Connor's screen. I think, is that a bottle of the Sakura? Hey, I called you out, yes.
So I think this is my favorite for whatever it's worth.
So good.
And we got a couple people that aren't necessarily champagne drinkers that are saying, ooh, it's this.
Yeah,
one.
awesome.
I think it's a winner. We give it a 5.
Oh, that's great, yes. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's just so easy to drink. It's just so bright. And like this with charcuterie, I bet is amazing. Like literally, you can pair all kinds of foods with this, and I love it. Well, I think that's it. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everyone's faces. Any questions or comments on any of the wines?
We've got ringing reviews for the H3 here. Some non-bubbly drinkers. Not so sure about this this current one.
I like all of them.
And then we've got all around love for the whole suite. So I think this has been really.
Aaron, what was your favorite one?
For me?
Aaron.
Oh, Aaron. Yeah. What is your favorite?
I think the Lei Rosay. Actually, I think that was my favorite.
Which is that?
The second.
Yeah.
I liked the body to it. I liked the depth. It was a bit bigger. Again, I'm a big red wine drinker, so I think that was kind of more my style.
Awesome.
The bubbles, and also, I mean, H3 was great, but it's definitely a porch pounder. It's lighter. It's my typical rosé, The second is definitely more of a unique taste.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, first, the Italian.
The first
rosé.
one, yeah, that's the prosecco.
It definitely brings out some unique flavors. I think it would be a very specific wine, not overwhelming my favorite, but it's also something different, which I'm sure I can get accustomed to. But the what is it, the Kentucky Derby one?
Lei Rosay.
Lei Rosay. Absolutely fantastic. Like what
Yeah,
a
the
bold,
Lei Rosay.
yeah, what a bold, fantastic rosé that was so complex and it was complex but had very specific notes to it. Like I could really pick out fruits, and instead of it being kind of not a jumbled mess, but sometimes rosés can get that way where they're just kind of fruit forward and overly possessive over one type of fruit or one flavor. But that was so complex, but also very specific. It was really interesting and I liked it a lot.
Awesome, great. Yeah, like rosé, sometimes you're right, it could just be very one-dimensional and it could be just fruit. Or it could have that residual sugar too, where it's like cloying almost. Or it's just almost like a kid's drink, right? Where it's so juicy, right? So yeah, the rosés today, the selection for today's tasting, it's just different styles of rosés where they're all still dry. They all have different complexities. But yes, the Lei Rosay. And then for those who have it in the glass now, definitely smell it now, because I feel like as the rosé warms up, more and more flavors come into play. It really like opens up on the nose and the palate too.
Morgan, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which one did you like the best?
I really like the H3. That one was my favorite. And one of my friends, she's about to be here, so we'll get her input as well. But
yeah,
I like that one a lot.
Myself.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
Emily, you guys have a great group of friends over there, and everyone has got to try some of this. What do you guys think? Yeah, they're eating. They're having fun. Drinking wine. That's okay. Eric, Connor, do you guys have anything to add for us? What did you guys think, or what was the favorite for you?
Bye.
Still on mute, bud.
Can't hear you.
H3
Oh, there we go.
H3 was the collective favorite of our group. We thought that was the crispest, and this one here, the rosé we liked, but we thought actually the aftertaste changed the more we sipped it. And I don't know if that's just, Guyan, is that just a function of the palate being changed, or how does that happen?
Yeah, so like I was saying, like when you go back to it and you're letting it stay in the glass and you're letting the oxygen hit the wine, more and more nuances start releasing itself. So you're gonna start getting different fruit characteristics. You're gonna get more savory tones. You're getting more of that Syrah is gonna come out, more of that black pepper, that licorice, more purple flowers. Whereas before, for me, I thought I was just really tasting cab in the beginning, but then as I'm letting it sit in the glass, it's like there's a lot going on here.
We also liked the H3 because it was easy for us to remember the name. So, we're simpletons here.
H3 is easy, and it has that beautiful label. Absolutely.
Well, Aaron, you guys had an opportunity to taste a few. You want to wrap us up with what you guys thought, what your favorites were, and final wrap up?
Yeah, let me using dual systems here. I'd say in this house, H3? I think the H3 was the favorite, but more so because it's what we all have seen as a traditional rosé or rosés that we've drank in the past. Again, I can't state how much I love the Lei Rosay as something different and more of a full-bodied rosé that I've never seen before. It was awesome. I mean, that's the consensus here.
Emily might have had something for us too. It looks like. Maybe. We're not.
Wait, did you say my name?
I did.
Okay, good. They were all talking, so I couldn't hear you, but I was like, guys, it's my moment. So we have 3 who love H3 the best, and then 3 who love Cipresetto. Is that the name of it? Did I say it?
Yeah, Cipresetto, yeah.
We all liked the last one a lot. I thought it was really good, easy drinking, but some people don't favor the sweetness of it as much. But of all of them were still in the 4 to 5 range, but we were split 50-50 between who thought what was the best. So I think H3 is your winner because personally that's what I voted for, but we've got some mixed opinions in here.
Awesome, I love that.
Thanks, JP, for giving me the mic.
Well, y'all, thank you so much for your time. If there's any other final questions or comments, feel free. But cheers to everyone. Rosé season's upon us, right? Aside from this winter freeze. Cheers, y'all.
Here's to rosé all day and all night.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So we can try to read.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Guy Young. It was awesome.
Bye. Thank you.
CJP.